Guys, welcome to Psalm 41. I've had a lot of requests, or interest, I guess would be a better word, not so much requests, but a lot of interest in drawing people and starting to get the human form kind of mastered. So if you noticed, I did one a couple of weeks ago where we had just sort of an empty face, and then I thought this week, if we tried to do a girl with her eyes closed and just like that top upper lip is really just a line and her nose is just like a gentle arc, I thought that would be a good place to start with kind of learning how to conquer the human face. So if you're looking at her eye there, you see that it's just a very gentle, almost like a smiley face, you know, when you were a kid and you would draw the smiley face. So it's just sort of like two smiley faces. Her nose is almost a V, but a gentle, relaxed V. And her mouth, that's just one kind of like solid sort of line for her mouth, and then just a shadow for her lower lip. So my thought was all of that is kind of a nice, easy way to kind of jump in and start adding in some facial features to a face, to a form. So I would encourage you guys to try it. You know, the doodle sheet is on praiseheart.net under the tab Psalm Study. She is under Psalm 41. So you are more than welcome to download all the PDFs. It's all free. It's all on there. There are so far now 41 different doodles that you can use in your Bible, on card making, anywhere that you want to. They can be easily translated to anything you want. So I'm adding in extra shadows on her face here, and I even kept it to be a very sort of a minimalistic palette, so that she was really something that I was trying to make it that anybody could do and not feel intimidated by. So her skin tone really only has the two colors, just a lighter skin tone and then a darker skin tone. I just added a little bit more brown to the skin tone to just bring it up a notch. And then her lips, that's sort of just like a terracotta kind of color. And I do put sort of just a little bit more on. I know I take it all off, but I do get a little bit more back on there again. So just very, very limited, sort of subdued kind of palette. Her hair, I've got the yellow. You know, we always start out with the lightest color first, and then we start working our way up in color, so that you get the highlights and the lowlights and all of that texture and color that hair has. You know, hair never is just one color. It's got so many fabulous different things going on inside it that you could just get lost in doing hair. So here I'm bringing up the second tone of her hair, and just kind of paying attention to where those shadows would be. Remember that on the crown of the head, where the hair is kind of coming out, that's always going to be a little bit darker, and then up on the top of the head, it's going to kind of catch some of the light. So I know that there's kind of like a funky thing going on there in her hair where the paint is not taken. I don't know what that is. I don't know why it's doing that. It's just sort of, it just won't take. I think I even tried to do it with a colored pencil, but it just didn't want to take. So that's fine. It kind of looks grungy, and I don't know, it's fine. So here I'm bringing up the third layer on her hair, the darkest element, paying attention to where the shadows would be. There would be a shadow around that little bow that's carrying that loose ponytail. There'd be shadows up close to her face. There'd be shadows kind of behind where the nape of the neck is. There'd be some shadows kind of hanging out in there. Take your time with your hair and come in and let it dry in between, and kind of keep building it up, because it really is, it can just make your drawing or break it. If you just slap on one color and kind of just color it in with one color, it's going to look one-dimensional, and it's not going to be believable. But if you truly kind of build up layer by layer, lighter, medium, and darker, and then really pop out where the darkest darks are going to be, I promise you'll see a difference in your drawings and in your paintings. I promise that you'll see just kind of start to spark up a little bit and come to life. So I introduced purple there. You see that. So, you know, when doing a composition, if you're going to introduce a color, you should try to get it in at least 3 times, because it will just draw the eye to that one color otherwise. So I have purple on that little bow there, and I know in my head that I've got to kind of work that in someplace else. So I'd hate that brown. Get rid of that brown. See how my brush, the watercolor sable brush, will just pick up what I don't want again. So it acts as an eraser, it acts as a paintbrush, it does everything you need. Can't say enough about having a good watercolor sable brush. So I'm going to start working on her little shirt down here. And I'm going to, like, that purple has to get sort of knocked back in again. So I am going to bring the purple down to her shirt as well. When their eyes are closed and you just have that little U, there's this one spot right in between, right smack in the middle of that whole arch. So if you look at the eyelid, it's just an arch. Right smack in the middle of that eyelid, there's just going to be just a tinge of a thicker line, because it's almost like you start to see the shadow of that lower lid. So right smack dab in the middle of the eye arch, just make it just a tinge bit thicker to just make it pop up a little bit and not look like it's just a line, you know, on a flat plane. So here I'm adding in some of the shadows, and ba-bam, there comes the sort of the collar of her t-shirt. You see how, though, it's completely bottom heavy now. So there's 2 pieces of purple on the bottom, and you can't get your eye away from that purple because it's so bottom heavy. So we're going to fix it, though. Do not stress. We're going to get it better. Now watch that. Doesn't really even cover over the brown, those spots. So I just figured, you know what, I kind of like the way her hair looks now, so I'm just going to leave it. So here I'm adding in blue, and imagine that there's like kind of like stitching on the collar of a t-shirt. So I'm doing that, but I want to bring it back down a little bit. So I'm kind of coloring in with the purple again, adding in the shadows in her little t-shirt, and then I'm going to pop in some color on top of that gray so that her whole shirt kind of takes on that little purple cast. It was hard down on the bottom there because the page wants to kind of crinkle up on you when you're working. So I feel okay with that now, that the bottom of the composition is sort of balanced out. But now by using a purpley pencil or purpley blue, it's going to make your eye go from the top of her head straight on down to the bottom, so that it just brings the whole composition together. Had I used brown there or any of the other colors in the composition, it wouldn't have done what it's doing right there and drawing your eye down, and then there's the base of the purple. So that's it, guys. That's your simple face for this week. I will see you next week on Psalm 42. Thanks, guys. Bye.